Welcome back to the Bitcoin Digital Course. My name is Ryan Matta. In today's episode, which is lesson 7, we're going to talk about crypto exchanges. What is the best place to buy Bitcoin in America? What exchanges can you buy it on in America? What are the best exchanges to buy it on if you do not live in America? And what are those exact fees that each exchange is going to charge you to purchase your Bitcoin? Meaning, how much money are you going to have to give this exchange to convert those dirty fiat dollars into the most valuable asset in the world, called Bitcoin? We're going to talk about how these exchanges work, which ones I recommend, which ones I don't recommend, and why it's super important to understand this fee structure and how fees work. Because if you want to set up these crypto trading bots, like I strongly recommend that you do, because this can literally be the difference between you making $155,000 or $5,000. Crazy, right? We're going to break that all down for you guys right here in today's episode. And if you guys would like to use any of these exchanges, this exchange, my absolute favorite, is BYBIT. If you guys are not inside the USA, you guys can use this exchange right here on the screen. You can see this QR code. The next exchange that I like to recommend would be POLONIEX. POLONIEX is one of those OG original exchanges. It's been around since 2014. It's also not in the USA, but it's a non-KYC exchange. So all you need is a VPN and an email address, and you can move crypto over there and trade it. And this exchange is right here. And last but not least, if you guys are in America and you have no choice but to use it, Coinbase is an option, and that is a valuable option. It is right here on the screen. Those are the ones that I have affiliate codes for. Those are the ones that you guys will get a discount, or you guys will get free Bitcoin, $10. I think POLONIEX offers $100. BYBIT has the biggest. It's up to like $30,000. Now, obviously, that is determined by how much money you deposit. So if you deposit $1,000, you might get $20 or $100. If you deposit literally $1 million or more, you get $30,000. Which is insane, folks. That's a lot of money. And that's how valuable your money is to these exchanges if you're going to trade on that exchange. So let those things sink in. Again, if you want to support us, these are the affiliate links. They're in all of my descriptions as well. So you don't have to have the QR code. You can just go down right into the show notes and grab those links. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. And when we start talking about exchanges, I labeled these in order over here from my favorite to my least favorite. And then at the top, I have descriptions. And you guys can download this spreadsheet. It'll be down in the comments of this video, or it'll be in the actual description. But check in the comments, because certain platforms, you can't put a description. So KYC means know your customer. This means that this exchange wants your ID, that you have to fill out a bunch of documents. It is very normal for these exchanges to want your ID, to want your address. They need all of your information because of our crooked and corrupt government wants to document everything you do with your money. It's not enough that they tax you 50%. They have to know every dollar that you spend, because gosh forbid, if you generate enough money to get out of the matrix, well, oh boy, they can't have that. So they need you to be a good, obedient little slave. So they're going to track how much money you spend, what Bitcoin you buy, where you sell it at, all of that bullshit if you're operating on a USA exchange. Next is the exchange name, or next is the fees charged by the exchange. And we call this a taker fee. So on crypto exchanges, how they work is you have a maker and you have a taker fee. For example, if Bitcoin is $100,000 today, and I say I want to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin when it hits 90,000. In order to do that, I have to take my dollars and I have to place a limit order, which means I have to put that money on that exchange, convert it into a stable coin, and say, hey, when Bitcoin hits this price, I already have the money in this wallet. I want you to immediately take the money out of my wallet. I want you to buy the Bitcoin. And since you are putting your money on the exchange in advance, and you're saying that, hey, I'm going to commit to purchasing this amount of Bitcoin in advance before price even gets there, you're technically making the market. You are putting liquidity onto that exchange so that at any point in time when Bitcoin hits that price, somebody can trade their Bitcoin for your dollar coin. And you end up with a Bitcoin, they end up with a dollar coin. That's called being a maker. Now, very rarely are a majority of new people makers. Right? A lot of times you're just like, okay, I want to buy Bitcoin. You just hit market buy, and it just goes out there and grabs Bitcoin from anybody that's willing to sell it. So that you're going to pay a higher fee for. And most of us are makers. Or most of us are called takers. That's when you're just taking the liquidity out of the market. You're not adding liquidity to the order books. A lot of confusing terminology, but just know that we're going to base this off of the taker fee, which would be the highest fee that you would be paying. So on Coinbase, my least favorite exchange, you're going to pay a 1% fee, which means that if you buy $10 or if you buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, they're going to charge you $10 to make that purchase. Next up is Coinbase Pro at 0.6%, Crypto.com at 0.25%, POLONIEX at 0.2%, BYBIT at 0.1%, Binance at 0.1%, and MEXC exchange at 0.05%. So the difference between 0.05% and 0.1% is 19,000%. 19,000%. Let that sink in. You can see the math right here. So if you're talking about an asset or the fees that you're paying going from $500 to $10,000, which would be the difference when we look into it, you're going to see that's 1,900%. That's a lot of profit. That is 1,900% more money that you could have had in your pocket if you weren't paying those crazy high fees. So that's why it's super important to understand how important these fees are and why they are the way that they are. So Coinbase is a US regulated exchange. They actually have a stock that's traded on the US stock exchange. The CEO was also in bed with Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler is the head of the SEC. He was working with Sam Bankman-Fried and Gary Gensler to create a regulatory monopoly over the crypto market so that they could trade their carbon credits from BlackRock on it in these regulated exchanges that only those two key players had the licensing to do. Now you take a look at Binance. Binance was the number one exchange that was getting attacked by the SEC, getting attacked by the US government, trying to convince us that CZ is this economic hitman and he's working with Iran and he's this terrorist. All BS, guys. Binance has been in the game for as long as I can remember, since 2015-ish, and they've never done me wrong. And Steve Z helped Elon buy Twitter. So if there's anybody that we should probably be backing, it's probably Binance, because our government despises them the most. So when you take a look at it, I have BYBIT, which is my favorite, and we're going to get through that now. We also have what's called KYC and no KYC. So know your customer. We kind of discussed it in the beginning. So I want to explain to you guys where these exchanges are located. So if you're in the US, Coinbase is in the US. It's also a global exchange, but it's also regulated in the USA. So if there's one exchange that you want to have that's the most user-friendly and easiest to use for new people, it's Coinbase Pro. Either way, Coinbase, you might as well use Pro because you're going to save yourself 40% in fees. So just deal with it. Use Coinbase Pro. But if you only have an iPhone and you're just on your app and you want something super convenient, you want to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, okay, Coinbase it is. Do it up. Whatever you want, whatever floats your boat. But Crypto.com here I have in red because I despise this company. I despise what they did to us in 2020. I despise what they did in 2022. They spend a bunch of money on marketing, paying people like Matt Damon $100 million to make a couple, Super Bowl ads. And they used to have all these rewards. If you got a Crypto.com credit card, you got all these perks and all these bonuses. And then what they did is they ran out of money. So then they started to go, oh, well, guess what? Those fees and those bonuses that we promised you? Yeah, well, we don't have the money to pay those. So you're just going to have to suck it up and you're not getting those. Okay, so instead of giving us more fees and having us all promoting your exchange, you went and spent $100 on Matt Damon, a pedophile, maybe somebody on Epstein's list. I don't know what that guy's deal is, but he doesn't seem legit to me. So anyways, fortune favors the brave. You guys remember that commercial? Well, yeah. So I despise them. I think they're money hungry. I think they're obviously more expensive than almost every other exchange in the market, and I would advise not using them. POLONIX is the OG day one exchange. That's been the exchange where I bought my $20 on Dogecoin in 2015. That during the Super Bowl would have been worth over $100,000. And today, with Elon there at the helm of it, it probably would have been worth a couple $100,000. Then next up, we have Binance, which is located in the US and it's a global exchange. But the Binance that operates in the United States is actually called Binance US. So if you guys are on Google and searching for it, they don't have any affiliate codes for me to give you or any links or anything like that. So just Binance US, you guys will find it. Then MEXC exchange is they are not in the USA. So that means you have to either get a Palua ID, which you can do, or you have to live in a different country. Now, POLONIX is the only exchange that doesn't require you to have any ID. You just need an email address. And with that email address, you can buy, sell, and trade your crypto. You can set up bots with a VPN on POLONIX, and you don't need any ID or documentation to do it. And then your bots are also trading on an exchange that is outside the USA. So good luck getting that information. If anybody from the US tried to go after POLONIX and try to demand that they turn over your information. POLONIX was the exchange in 2018 that when our government changed these regulations, they said, okay, you don't want us as a business, as a multi-million-dollar business to operate in your country and pay you taxes and generate revenue for you. And you want us to violate the privacy of our users on our exchange? That goes against their ethos. We don't need to operate in the USA. Fuck you guys. We'll pack our bags up. Or you can just tell all of your citizens that you guys can't use our exchange and have to deal with the ramifications of that. And that's what they did. And people like me were pissed off at our gosh damn government for doing that. And now POLONIX is operating in other countries. These other countries are making all that tax money while we're working 2 jobs because our government spends money recklessly. Maybe if they didn't drive every single business out of America, we wouldn't be paying 53% of every dollar we make in taxes. So I strongly stand by POLONIX. They're awesome. You don't need any IDs. So if you're going to set up bots or doing anywhere, you know, even though their fee is slightly higher than other exchanges, which as soon as you get over $10,000 in trade volume, it drops down almost to a 0.1%. So it's really cool. This is an awesome exchange to use. Now, you can also go on to a website called, I believe it's POLONIX. I'll have to get you guys the exact link. But on this exchange, because in order to trade, you need to be a resident. In order to KYC, you need to have residency in specific countries. Now, this one country over in the Bahamas, or off a little island off the Bahamas, allows citizens from the USA to get residency in there for a couple $100. So you pay $200, you submit some documentation, you take a photo, and you stare into your phone, and they do the thing and they scan. And next thing you know, you have residency. They mail you an ID, and then you can go on to either one of these exchanges, any of these exchanges, and you can actually register as a KYC client and submit your information, and that's how this works. So when we talk about that, my tax advisor, the tax guy who does crypto taxes, does my personal tax accountant. This guy who I met online, this through on my website doing interviews, recommended this. He's the one who did this. Now, I personally don't do that, but you know, if I did, I wouldn't tell you guys. And a lot of my friends have done it, so I know it's legit. And a tax guy is doing it, so it's definitely doable. And he's a tax advisor, and I don't think he'd be saying that I'm doing this and talking about it on live streams if he thought he was going to get in trouble for doing it. So it's obviously up to snuff. Now, you talk about the rest of these exchanges. So I put them in order. Number 1 is BYBIT. Number 2 would be POLONIX. Number 3 would be MEXC. Number 4 would be Binance, I like Binance a lot. Number 5 would be Coinbase Pro. And number 6 would be Crypto.com. If I had to use one, I guess I would say these are tied for last place. I can't tell which one I like least, but I despise Crypto.com. So let's just do it right now. F you, Crypto.com. You are taking the absolute worst last case scenario. Now what I want to do is I want to talk about these trading fees. So right now I said, okay, if we're going to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, what is that fee that we're going to pay? And on Coinbase, it's 1%. So the math on that is 0.01 times 1,000 gives you $10. On Coinbase Pro for that same trade, $6, Crypto.com, $3, POLONIX, $2, BYBIT, $1, Binance, $1, MEX, 50 cents. Now, when you're trading Bitcoin, I want to be very clear on this part. When you take your dollars from your bank account and you say, hey, I want to go buy Bitcoin. Well, what you actually have to do is they're not just going to convert your dollars for you into Bitcoin. They're going to convert your dollars into a stable coin, which will be USDT or USDC, which is US dollar coin. So it's just USD, which stands for US dollar. And then it'll be T for Tether or C for, I forget the company, Circle. So USDC, which is US dollar Circle coin. And then USDT, which is US dollar Tether coin. And there's several other ones. Those are what are called stable coins. We're going to have an entire video on what stable coins are. But it's just a cryptocurrency that they basically created out of thin air that represents a dollar, and it's always pegged to the dollar itself. So it very rarely fluctuates in value. You know, maybe a fraction of a penny above and a fraction percent of a penny below, but it very rarely depegs. Now, when we talk about stable coins, right? You're going to take your dollars and you're going to convert your US dollars into the stable coin. Then now in order to buy Bitcoin, you have to trade a coin for Bitcoin because there has to be somebody on the opposite side of that trade. So if you wanted to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, you're going to take your stable coin and you're going to swap it for Bitcoin, right? And when you're swapping it, that trade, if you're buying $1,000 worth, that trade is going to charge you the fee, right? So if you buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin and then say you're sitting on it and like, for some reason, price just skyrockets up. It goes up from 100,000 to 125,000 in a flash second. And you're like, some giant whale just bought. Oh, we know price is going to crash. I want to sell my Bitcoin now that I just made 25% profit in 10 minutes. As soon as you go to sell that 10,000 is turning into, let's just say it went all the way up by 50%. Let's say it turned into 15,000. Well, when you sell that 15,000, you're then converting your Bitcoin back to a US dollar coin, right? The USDC or USDT. And again, now you're going to pay that 1% fee on the $15,000 that you traded it back because that would be considered a trade. Every time you swap your Bitcoin for another asset, you are trading your Bitcoin for that coin. and there's a fee that's associated with that. So when we're talking about this over here and we're looking at this spreadsheet and I say $1,000, that's just to buy it, right? If you're going to sell it, then it would be 20, right? Because it's a buy and a sell. Or you could look at it like, okay, I bought $500 worth and I sold $500 worth. But we're just talking about one transaction, one time trade. Now, let's say you buy $1 million worth of Bitcoin, or over a week period, or a month period, you had a bot set up and that bot traded back and forth $1,000, $1,000, $1,000, $1,000, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. You might have only made, $50 trading that month, or you might have only made $10,000 trading. Well, you better hope you made $10,000, because if you're on Coinbase that month, you're going to pay $10,000 in fees just creating the trade volume for $1 million. Then on Coinbase Pro, it'd be $6,000. On Crypto.com, it would be $2,500. On POLONIEX, it'd be $2,000. On BYBIT, it'd be $1,000. Binance, $1,000. MEXC, $500. And you guys can see the list here. So now here's where it gets really interesting. And I wanted to point out, right, the difference between 500 and 10,000. We went over to the website. I showed you guys 500 to 10,000 is 1,900% different. All right, now let's talk about setting up these crypto trading bots. So when we talk about setting up crypto trading bots, these things are the holy grail of the future. We're going to get into it in the next video. But I just want you to understand, these bots cannot make a losing trade. You give it a dollar amount, however many dollars you want your bot to have. Let's say it's $10,000. And you say, I want this bot to set up a grid range, means how often is it going to buy or sell? I'm going to set it up from $100,000 to $90,000. And anywhere in that range that Bitcoin moves, goes up and down, it's going to buy and sell all up and down in that range. It has $10,000. If price keeps going from 100 all the way down to 90,000, right? When it gets down to $89,990, it will have bought you $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, right? Now, it cannot sell that Bitcoin at a loss. So when price goes below 90,000, the bot just stops trading because it can't sell your Bitcoin at a loss. So the second that it goes back above 90, the bot turns back on and keeps doing its thing. Right? Now, if it goes back below 90,000 and you want it to keep trading, you can add more of the dollar coin to it. And as long as it has the ability to keep buying, right? It'll buy. And then as soon as price moves up from the lowest price point that it bought at, it'll start selling again. So it's a really interesting concept because this bot cannot technically lose you money. Worst case, it just ends up buying you a bunch of Bitcoin, which you would have done anyways. Let's jump back over here. So now let's talk about these bots. Let's just say I have a bot and I give it $3,000 and I sell it to set up some grids, and it's going to go, okay, with the grid setup we have, it's going to trade $100 worth of Bitcoin every time it buys or sells. Then it's going to, depending on how volatile the market is, it might trade 100 times a day. So if it makes 100 trades a day and it's the value of those trades are $100, 100 times 100 gives you 10,000. Now there's 30 days in a month. So let's say the total volume, the amount of dollars that we bought and sold worth of Bitcoin was 300,000. If you did that on Coinbase, and I'm not sure if Coinbase even allows you to set up bots, but Coinbase Pro does for sure, and the rest of these do. So let's just say Coinbase did, it would be 3,000 because you're paying a 1% fee every time that bot trades. Now on Coinbase Pro, you're talking about a 1,800, on Crypto.com 750, on POLONIEX 600, on BYBIT 300, Binance 300, and MEXC 150. That's a drastic difference in price. So if I set a bot up on Coinbase, technically that bot or the price of Bitcoin would have to move up by 1% before my bot could trade and be profitable, because you're trading off of percentage basis, right? So price would actually have to move up more than 1%. Now on Coinbase Pro, you're talking about a little over 0.5%, 0.6, $1,800. Crypto.com 750, POLONIEX 600, 300, 300, and 150. Now let's say that this bot's running for about, let's just say it runs for 6 months. Now you've built some profit. Now let's say you got enough to level up your bot. And instead of trading $100 per trade, you level it up, you regrid it out. And you're like, I want to give it $1,000 per trade. So that over a 30-day period with making $1,000 trades, doing 100 trades a day over 30 days is going to give you a total of $3 million. So now your bot that has $3 million on Coinbase would be $30,000 in fees. Coinbase Pro would be $1,800, $7,500, $6,000, $3,000, $3,000, and $1,500. Now let's say the bot's been running for a year or 2 years. And on top of that, you've been working and stacking in some extra cash because you want to build up your bot to generate you enough passive income to pay all of your bills. Your bot's going to be doing about $30,000 a month. in trade volume, at the very least, give or take. Now, on Coinbase, you're going to pay $300,000. On Coinbase Pro, it's $180,000, $75,000, $60,000, $30,000, $30,000, and $15,000. Now, my favorite exchange is BYBIT. So I just want to explain this to you. Let's say that you had your bot running on Coinbase, which is this one up here, Coinbase Pro. And I have mine running on BYBIT down here. So I'm going to pay guaranteed $30,000 in fees. You're going to pay $180,000. Now let's say that that bot over that month made you $10,000 in passive income. So your bot technically made $190,000, but you had to pay $180,000 in fees. So now let's say that you have the same bot running, and you have the same bot running on BYBIT and on Coinbase Pro. Coinbase Pro, the bot, right, makes a total that month of $190,000, but it has to pay the exchange fees of $180,000. That bot is left with $10,000 in profit. Still a great month. Now, if you were actually able, I'm not saying that that's a realistic thing, but I'm just giving an example. Now, if you had that same bot set up on BYBIT, because of how much more profitable, you're not paying those outrageous fees every time the bot trades, the difference would be you end up walking with $150,000 versus $10,000. So now you guys can understand why it is so much more important for your bot, and you'll understand it a lot more once we actually walk through and we set that up. Now, the last thing we're going to want to talk about is liquidity. And when we talk about liquidity, we're talking about how much money is on an exchange. Because when you're buying and selling, you want volume. We want there to be a lot of trade activity. So if you come over to CoinMarketCap, and I'm going to have another tutorial or lesson that teaches you everything you need to know about CoinMarketCap. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go to coinmarketcap.com. We're going to scroll on down. We're going to click the Bitcoin logo. And we're going to click up top. We're going to click markets. Now, what this is going to show you is it's going to show you every exchange and every pair. Like, so on Binance, you can trade Bitcoin for USDT. You can trade Bitcoin for FDUSD. You can trade it on Binance as well, US for USDT. You can trade it for USDC, because these are all the pairs, right? You have to trade Bitcoin for a stablecoin. You have to trade Bitcoin for some type of other asset. But what we are looking for is we're looking for Bitcoin USDT. And if we scroll over here, we're going to be looking for trade volume. So over here on our trade volume, that's in a 24-hour period, what is the total volume of all the trades that took place? And you can see like right here, we have Bitcoin USDT, and they're doing almost $6 billion a day, which means that that exchange is making so much damn money. If they're making their, let's just say it was the full 1%, right? They are making 1% of $6 billion, guys. The math on that, 1% of $6 billion is $60 million. That's how much money that exchange is potentially making in a 24-hour period. So when we talk about exchange volume and why this is important, because I think that a lot of trust is built into an exchange based off their trade volume. So let's say BitTrue or BuyTrue is using the same 1% fee. Now they're doing $6 billion. So if every trader that traded was happened to be paying that 1% fee, which a lot of them are using bots, so they're not, but let's just pretend they were. If we take what is 1% of $6 billion, that is $60 million, folks. Let me just make sure that I'm understanding this right, and I'm doing the math on this correctly. Yeah, 1% of $6 billion is $60 million. It seemed kind of high. But what that means is that this exchange in every 24 hours is roughly making $60 million just off the trade volume from Bitcoin and USDT. Now, if we scroll down, you can see BYBIT, which is Bitcoin USDT. They're doing $2 billion. So that's what, a third of that. So that means BYBIT's roughly making about $20 million a day just from the people trading Bitcoin on their exchange. So when you see an exchange that's doing that much trade volume, that means that there's always going to be somebody there to take the opposite trade. Meaning if you wanted to sell $100,000 worth of Bitcoin like that, you wouldn't even move the markets. There would be enough people on there that it would eat that up in a second. It wouldn't even phase the charts. Now you go down to one of these crazy exchanges that only has like, say, $1 million worth of trade volume in a 24-hour period. If your bot is trading $1,000 and it does that 100 times in a day, or $10,000 and does that 100 times in a day, that's $1 million. So you would beat all of the liquidity. One person with one bot that trades $10,000 trades is going to do over $1 million a day in trades. So to kind of help you understand how this puzzle works, hopefully these videos are helpful. Hopefully you found this video convenient. Again, all of those QR codes are listed right there on the screen. If you guys would like to support us, you guys can obviously do so by becoming a paid member over on X and joining the Matta mission, which is to rescue these 450,000 kidnapped, trafficked migrant children that our government has funneled into this country. You guys can also check out my documentaries. I fund all of these operations, and all of my businesses are ran. All of my employees work on Bitcoin. I'm a 100% a Bitcoin maximalist through and through. Recovering shitcoiner. We've all been there, folks. But that's why I wanted to show you guys how this game is played and give you an aspect from somebody who's been there, and why these exchange fees are so important, especially if you're going to trade these bots, which a lot of Bitcoin maxis don't suggest. They frown upon it. But I want to see you guys acquire more Bitcoin. And if I can help you generate passive income to buy more Bitcoin and they don't like that, well, kick rocks, dude. We're not leverage trading. We're teaching people how to set up an algorithmic trading bot that cannot lose money. Worst case, it DCAs them into Bitcoin and they didn't buy a top. God bless you guys. Again, my name's Ryan Matta. We out. Peace.